So, I won't waste any time and I'll just cut straight to the chase and get to the point. Nigeria is at a breaking point. Inflation is eating through pockets like wildfire. The cost of living is strangling the average Nigerian. The naira is struggling at best. Hunger is at our doorsteps, and despair is settling in like an unwanted guest. Yet, the so-called opposition, the People's Democratic Party, is too busy fighting itself to fight for Nigerians. The PDP, the party that once held power for 16 years, the party that should be leading the charge against the economic hardship this administration has plunged Nigerians into, is instead caught in an endless loop of internal chaos, power struggles, and petty squabbles over positions and control. So let's be clear, the PDP is failing as the opposition, while the ruling APC consolidates power, expands its control at both state and federal levels, ballooning the cabinet with appointees, non-executive and executive, while Nigerians struggle to afford basic meals. The PDP is nowhere to be found because they're, you know what I mean, no coordinated resistance, no alternative policies, no serious attempt to hold the government accountable. Instead, we see fighting, court cases, and ego battles. Can you tell I take boxing classes? Well, is the PDP's voice on the suffering? Where is the PDP's voice on the suffering of the Nigerian people? If you ask me, now who I go ask? The APC, despite its failures, is unchallenged. It's gaining ground, wielding power without checks because the supposed biggest opposition is too distracted with its own survival to challenge the real enemy, bad governance. So in a time when Nigerians desperately need an alternative, a party that should be galvanizing the people, organizing protests, offering solutions, making the government uncomfortable with hard truths, the PDP is fumbling. And we're barely 2 years away from the 2027 elections. And at this rate, the PDP is setting itself up for another humiliating defeat. I'll say it. Not because the APC is strong, but because the PDP is weak, disorganized, and consumed by internal bickering. So enough is enough. PDP, if you are listening, wake up. As my Akwa Ibom brothers and sisters will say, Dakara, stop fighting yourselves and start fighting for Nigerians. Step up as the opposition that this country so desperately needs. Hold the power accountable. Hold government accountable. Speak for the people. Be the check and balance to power. That is your job. Because if you don't, history will not remember you as a great opposition party. It will remember you as a party that self-destructed while Nigerians suffered. So the time for excuses is over. What will you do? Don't worry, I'll tell you, even though I'm just a journalist, I really don't know anything. But if you were to heed advice from me, I would say organize, strategize, and become the opposition Nigerians deserve. Serve, instead of squabble. That didn't rhyme. Anyway, PDP, the clock is ticking. And as the clock is ticking, we would not like to keep you waiting on here. So let me officially welcome you to Breakfast Extra. I'm Judith Ativi, and of course my incomparable co-host is on standby to give you the very best. Mazino, do you go for boxing classes? Can you squabble?
If you ask me, I'm horrible at singing, but who you ask?
Well.
I don't think I'm a fighter, I'm a lover. Thank you.
Well, I pick and choose. I'm a woman. What can I say? I do both.
It's all good. Hey, when you come back, we have very interesting conversations. So let's get the show started already.
And for you at home, I would like for you to squabble up. Let's get ready. And you're welcome to our very first big report for today. We turn our attention to a case that once again places Nigeria's democracy under scrutiny. The legal battle between the Inspector General of Police and activist and politician Omoyele Sowore. Sowore, a known critic of the government, has been granted bail set at 10 million naira with a surety in like sum. Additionally, the court ordered him to asked him to surrender his passport. Could you believe it? It's a very coveted passport, I would say, his international passport, effectively limiting his mobility with the ongoing case. Now, this raises critical questions about whether this is a legitimate legal process or an attempt to stifle dissent. Does this case set a precedent for how Nigeria handles political opposition? Where does this balance, or rather, where does the balance lie between free speech and maintaining law and order? Our correspondent Joshua Marai has been following this case closely and brought us this report from over the week. Take a look.
These protesters chanted songs of solidarity despite the heavy presence of police demanding the immediate release of activist and politician Sowore. They also called on the government to release all individuals currently being detained for participating in any form of protest in the country.
Sowore, just because he's asking for the right thing, is also under arrest. He's on trial now, and we say drop the charges against him now. Drop the charges against him now.
Come January 30th, 2025, Honorable Justice Musa Suleiman Liman is expected to rule on the bail applications presented before him by the counter representing Sowore, who has prayed the courts to grant Sowore bail based on self-recognizance.
There is a 16-count charge filed against Mr. Sowore in court today, all centered on his challenge on the illegal occupation of the office of the IG by the present occupants. Section 367 of the police regulations prohibits the filing of a charge of this nature by a police officer who is using the instrument of his office as a tool of settling personal vendetta.
I'm urging the Inspector of Police to stop abusing his power, his office. What he's doing is abuse of power, abuse of office, simpliciter. There's no any other name for it. How can you be because somebody criticizes you? You are using taxpayers' money to prosecute and victimize your critic, because he has criticized you, he has called you illegal. If somebody says you are an illegal IG, you will just ignore him now if you are not illegal.
Sowore, however, revealed his reasons for declining the administrative bail offered to him by the police.
I cannot, in good conscience, continue to participate in illegality. The courts have made it very clear that the police have no right to grant administrative bail that asks for civil servants to own, first and foremost, 100 million naira houses, which is a crime. That's corruption.
Sowore is expected to be in the custody of the intelligence response team of the Nigerian police force, pending the ruling on his bail application. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Marai.
And right now, Joshua Marai joins us to share insight from his reporting. Also joining us is Hassan Taiwo Soweto, spokesperson, Youth Rights Campaign, and also legal practitioner, Barrister To Osiruja. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to be starting with you, Joshua. First of all, thank you for such a great report. You've been following the case from the courtrooms to, give us the reactions. So please, let's start with the basics. Can you please walk us through what led to Sowore's arrest? Apart from the video that we saw, were there any other details regarding why he was arrested and how the case has been tagged so far? Yes, Joshua, please.
What started as a mere invitation to Sowore, to the investigation department, the Intelligence Investigation Department of the Nigerian Police Force, actually triangulated from just being an invitation, then to what seemed to be a questioning, then into an interview. Then at the end of the day, we heard that Sowore is asked to bail himself with a level 17 civil servant who is in the position of a permanent secretary. And as you know, that is a political appointee. Now, the case just triangulated into something that we never expected. Because initially we thought Sowore was paying that visit to the police just because of the video he made some time ago on his way to the airport in Lagos. But unfortunately for him, this is just one case that is going to be a long drag for us, as Sowore will be experiencing a long court case, because we are expected to go to court by the 8th of April. But however, the whole event just seemed to escalate quickly, because from where Sowore was at the Criminal Investigation Department at the Nigerian Police Force headquarters here in Abuja. We started seeing him making posts on his Facebook how he's not going to accede to the bail conditions given to him by the police, saying the police is asking him to bring a level 17 officer to bail himself. What went wrong was what we didn't know. And while we waited, no one told us that Sowore is being questioned for calling the IG an illegal IG. That is the bone of contention. The bone of contention is too big for everyone to swallow now, because Sowore on his own side is maintaining his stance that the IG is an illegal IG, citing the fact that he's over 60 years old, and citing the part of the police act that states that an IG is supposed to leave service immediately he's 35 years in service, or 60 years old, or Sowore is capitalizing on the or that states that the IG, once 60 years old, has to leave service. Now, the IG on his own part is maintaining his own stance that the presidency has given him the go-ahead based on the recent enactment that he has 4 years to stay in office. So that is the bone of contention. And what we all saw was Sowore being who he is, based on what he said he is, an activist who is maintaining his stance that the IG must leave. And he's so sure that when the case is being presented in court, he's going to win.
Okay.
Well, Joshua, many thanks for that. Let me just come to you and ask you, many thanks for joining us, Sowore, by the way. On just this case, you've been following the case. What has been your initial reaction? And also, a 10 million naira bail, and then, in like sum as well, and also collecting his passport. What do you make of the judgment and just your reaction?
Okay, my reaction to the judgment is that bail is at the discretion of the courts. If you look at the charge, if you look at the offense Sowore was charged, until it's being proved, until the police prove their case, the conditions set up by the court is not bad, because it's at the discretion of the court to determine the condition that will be set up. 10 million naira does not mean Sowore is going to deposit that 10 million naira. It only means that the person that is going to bring should be able to what a net 10 million naira is when that condition is further, that the person may likely forfeit that 10 million naira. So it does not mean that he's going to deposit that money in cash into the court coffers. Then secondly, for his passport, I think is a known practice. Is a known practice, not that is a known practice that has become that has been taken judicial precedent of, that people of his nature, people of affluence, people of influence who have the means and ways of moving about, the best way to restrict them is to the best way to curtail them is to hold on to their passport. We know situations whereby people they may be considered flight risks, but I don't see Sowore to be of that person. But like I told you, it all boils down to what the judge feel at that particular point in time. As a matter of fact, the judge can decide not to grant him bail. But if the court has decided to grant him bail and set out that condition, two things is left for Sowore: is either to accept the bail condition and deposit the passport or the 10 million, or alternatively, he can approach the Court of Appeal to vacate or reconsider the bail condition granted by the High Court, by the Federal High Court.
Sowore, let's go back to the genesis of this. This all emanated from the viral video of Sowore going to the airport and making a video of the Nigerian police, where I think there was an accusation, if I'm not mistaken, of extortion, but not to him. Now, this then snowballed into it being a case of cyberbullying, and then eventually we hear about the little details regarding the age of the IG. Now, if we take this from the start, it was seen as a case of cyberbullying. What exactly does the Nigerian law say about cyberbullying, and did that actually constitute cyberbullying?
Well, let me look at it from the foundation, looking at the surface of the charge. Well, to me, Sowore is more of a politician an activist who metamorphosed into a politician. And one of the things that will keep him going ahead of his relevancy is issues of this nature, the controversial issues of this nature. And I believe the police as an institution would have been smart enough and more intelligent enough not to divulge themselves into such an act. One, let's look at it from the illegal statement made to the Inspector General of Police. The provision of the law that established the Office of the Inspector General of Police is Section 120, is Section 215 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that talks about, that creates the Office of the Inspector General of Police. Then if you look at it, if you look at the Nigerian Police Act 2020, if you look at Section 7 states about the tenure, the appointment and the tenure of the Inspector General of Police. And let me correct this impression by Nigerians. The appointment of the Inspector General of Police is not solely the prerogative of Mr. President. It consists of the Nigerian Police Council, which is made up of all the governors and other stakeholders. And on their advice, that is the president will appoint. Then if you now look at what Sowore is banking on, I talked about Section 7 of the Nigerian Police Act 2020. Then what Sowore is banking on and what others are still banking on is Section 18. And if you look at Section 18 is a general provision. It's a general provision that talks about recruitment and appointment of police officer. Then if you look at it from that perspective, the law is clear and it's elementary to any lawyer and anybody in the society, is that when there is a provision of the law that is made specifically, when a provision of the law is specific as to an operation of the law, the general provision is subject to that specific provision. So Section 18 of the Nigerian Police Act is subject to the provision, is subject to Section 7 of the Police Act, which talks about a person who is appointed as the Inspector General of Police will serve a tenure of 4 years. That is that. No, it's not. So it's not binded by that Section 18 that talks about either 35 years or attain 60 years, where it's for the purpose of educating the public. Then if you look at it from the video, that I think the police ought to have informed Nigerians as to what happens to those officers, because that video released by Sowore is embarrassing to the Nigerian police as an institution. It's really embarrassing. It's very, very embarrassing to Nigerian police as an institution. Then the other thing again is the case of metamorphosing into cyberbullying. I think the Nigerian police as an institution need to understand some certain things. Legal rudiment when it comes to the cyber. This Cybercrime Prohibition Act is a new law, which I believe Nigerians are coming intent with. And I believe the judiciary has a lot of work to do to make public institutions like the Nigerian police to understand what this law is all about. And from all intent and purpose, there is no thing Sowore has done to have warranted the police to activate that particular law, because the Office of the Inspector General of Police is a public office holder. Is a public office holder. I think what I believe the police would have done, and I believe, is to educate Sowore to the extent of his understanding of the law, not to bring him into this thing. Then if you look at it on the other way, they are creating relevance. He has been in the public domain now, and it has become a discussion. And take it all, for the next 1 week, Nigeria will be discussing, and that is what activism is all about. So it's his own style of politicking, and I believe that Nigeria police has fallen into that trap, and they are already in the mud, because it has exposed the extent of the Nigerian police understanding of the law.
You put it so well done, and thank you so much for that submission. Very, very instructive there. Joshua, let me ask you, in the courtroom when you were there and just observing the entire proceedings, what was the moment that stood out for you, a very critical moment that stood out for you in the courtroom, whether it's the appearance of Sowore and his team, or just basically the other opposition or the other side of the defense? The prosecution.
Well, every moment in the courtroom was a highlight for me, because being in the same room with Sowore, the kind of person, is someone who is known for his kind of activation. from the moment he stepped his leg into those courtroom, into those the courtroom particularly, he arose some kind of cheers from his supporters who were in the courtroom. Basically, most of those people sitting in that courtroom, you can see pictures from that courtroom. They are mostly supporters. You see the likes of Deji Adeyanju. These are people who have been known to be long-time alliance with who have formed long-time alliance with Sowore. And one particular time that stood out for me was when his charges were read to him. The moment they read from the charge 1 to charge 11, he understood this charge and he pleaded not guilty to all those charges. When he came to count 12, he pleaded that the charge be read over again. Why? Because that particular charge was the charge that was re-amended, because it was a 17-count charge that was later brought down to 16 counts as a result of typographical errors. So the whole thing seemed like a drama, and even the judge on his bench made a comment that stood out. He was like, these charges are generic charges, because why? Most of those charges are in a way encapsulated that most of them consist of several assertions, pronouncements, statements that Sowore has made online about the IG, about the police, about the police PRO, about so many police officers and the activities of police that he finds are not okay for the society. Those are what is being used to charge Sowore in court. If you should have a copy of that charge sheet, you understand the magnitude of the charge. Basically, they are not just cases where he has had altercations with the police. No, they were not cited there. Just basically cases of cyber bullying and cyber attack, or whatever the police can call it. However, but from charge 1 to charge 16 are basically tweets, Facebook posts of Sowore insulting the police or making assertions to some of the police or the police IG, and it evoked so much laughter in court that is the judge had to maintain calm in the courtroom.
Right. I wanted to stop you there when you were talking about these statements or these charges that were brought against him regarding the fact that these were just statements that were made online. So it takes us back to the Cyberbullying Act. And Barrister Sowore, if you would please. Now, when does the Cyberbullying Act actually cross into infringing on one's ability to a right to free speech? Because what it seems like now is like once you say anything that seems to be dissentive or anything that's opposing an authority, you would be tracked down. So when does it cross that line?
So surprised, because you see, the Nigerian police are full of surprises. And I must say that the current Inspector General of Police should be very, very careful, and should look at his legal and media team. Because I think he's going to go down the memory lane. Is the most his tenure is the most controversial, and who decide to listen to side talk rather than focus on the purpose of the Nigerian police force. If you look at the section critically on the surface of the charge, you will just laugh. And I believe the comment of the judge is for me. I think the judge has the power to quash so motu. When I mean so motu, that is even without listening to, in his own volition, in his own right, to terminate a charge that seems ridiculous, that seems that contravenes known law. Then when you talk about when it crosses, I think in all the statement, there is nowhere that the police is going to assert that the statement of Sowore was a threat to any member of the police. It's never a threat. It's never a threat. Neither will it say that that particular provision of the law upon which is in section 24, because I could see the new police spokesman when he tends to, I think the new police spokesman, I don't want to compare, but I think he has a lot to do. But when he wants to respond to issues regarding the police, the next thing is more or less a threat rather than education and also time admitting the fault of the Nigerian police. If you look at the provision in which he's being charged, you ask yourself, does he in any way mention public institution? is about individual. And the only place it talks about association or cooperation, it has to do with you trying to make exploitation when there is a threat to kidnapping, when there is a threat of life and all those stuff. But all the statements in question do not in any way relate to that. Because the office, like I will tell you, a public officer should be ready to absorb some level of comments or commentary that comes from the citizen. Because if we continue like this, that means the cartoons, you know, this cartoon column in newspapers, or these cartoon columns in all these articles we see every day, all those things will go down. So I believe that it only crosses or it activates that bullying when there is a threat. Not even the reputation is as to a diseased person. When it comes to the reputation, is as to a diseased person. But when it comes to a threat, do you understand? A threat to life, issue of kidnapping, issue of insecurity. And I believe that those things did not occur by statement of Sowore. And as a matter of fact, for you to see the comedy in it, if you look at it, it's more or less like you ask, is the Nigerian police intelligent at all? This is somebody who said the Inspector General of Police is illegal. He was invited by the Inspector General of Police, and he attended the invitation of an institution that is headed by illegal person, as he asserted. It's comedy.
Right.
It's comedy.
The biggest question here is whether this sets precedents and what exactly, if this will continue to suppress dissent when it comes to speaking up against, just holding power accountable, or just really speaking your mind about how people see things and political activism in Nigeria. But gentlemen, I must say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us today. Joshua Maraya, our correspondent from Abuja, who's been covering this story. Many thanks for all of your hard work on this report, and also to legal practitioner Barrister Towo Oserowoja. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. We appreciate you.
Welcome back. Now, for decades, the shrinking of Lake Chad has been a major ecological and humanitarian crisis threatening millions of people across Nigeria, Chad, Niger, and also Cameroon, who rely on the lake for water, agriculture, and also fishing. Now, once one of Africa's largest lakes, it has shrunk by over 90% since the 1960s due to climate change, irregular water usage, and also desertification. Now, there's a glimmer of hope because the African Development Bank has approved funding for a critical feasibility study to explore ways of recharging Lake Chad. Now, this announcement was made during the pre-forum joint press briefing at the 5th Lake Chad Governors Forum in Maiduguri. Our correspondent Umaru Kirawa has been following this story closely, and he brought us this report from over the week. Take a look.
From the top, a view of the Lake Chad, a major water source for millions in the Sahel region. It serves as economic multiplier and means of survival for families depending on fishing and irrigation farming. The Lake Chad Basin, which is said to have witnessed significant shrinkage over the past decades due to climate change and unsustainable water use, is showing signs of recovery according to recent research.
2014, right up till now, we will say the lake is regaining the surface area. So as of last year, we had 16 to 17,000 square kilometers of waters in the lake. Now, there are details that we can share, but we are monitoring the surface area of the lake. I'm happy to announce we just recently got approved funding from the African Development Bank to conduct the feasibility studies for this project. The project was approved in November, and we are starting implementation this year. So we are going to do feasibility studies to do the improvement of the hydraulic capacity of the Shari and Logun system and of the Komadugu Yobe, and also of the lake. So those studies are going to start. And we hope once this is done, then we're going to come up with an investment plan which the countries are going to support in terms of dredging and making sure that the lake is reconstituted.
This is said to form a major part of discussion by experts as governors of the 8 states in the 4 Lake Chad countries of Nigeria, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon, as well as policymakers, among others, converge for the 5th Lake Chad Governors Forum.
Day one will begin with an in-depth analysis of current security and humanitarian trends in the Lake Chad It will be followed by a review of the regional strategy for stabilization, recovery, and resilience, where stakeholders will explore updated strategies and implementation tools and the funding mechanism enriched by insights from traditional rulers and expert discussions. Key initiatives include the Stabilization of Development Fund will also be launched, underlying the importance of resource mobilization for sustainable peace building.
Hosted by Yobe State Government, the 5th Lectured Governors Forum is a platform to strengthen regional cooperation and address pressing challenges in the Lectured Basin, including stabilization, recovery, and resilience. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Many thanks to Mari Kirawa there for that report. But it begs to ask a critical question. What does this mean in real terms? Can science and policy reverse decades of environmental decline? Well, to unpack this, we'll speak to our correspondent, Mari Kirawa, who's been following this story closely. He joins us now live all the way from Maiduguri, Borno. Also joining us here as well is Mrs. Dr. Murtala Adoji Mohammed. He's the founder and CEO of System Strategy and Policy Lab. He's going to help us understand the broader implications of this move. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining us. We appreciate you for doing this with us. I'm going to start with Umaru. Umaru, good morning to you. I mean, you covered this announcement from Maiduguri. You followed the forum, the Governors Forum, which is the 5th one, consecutive one. Can you walk us through what was said at the pre-forum briefing and why this visibility study is being seen as a breakthrough?
Well, I asked the question when they were briefing the press with regard to the line of activities that will take place during the 5th Lectured Governors Forum, which has successfully concluded yesterday, and they have even issued a communique with regard to what really needs to be done in terms of regional stabilization, recovery, resilience, deliberate efforts to address some of the teething problem in the region. So the technical director of the Lectured Basin Commission made the pronouncement when I asked the question with regard to the state of recharging of the Lectured, which is in a state of comatose and which has really led to the destruction of lives, properties, the increase in terrorism and other humanitarian crisis. So many people are dependent on the Lectured for fishing, for farming, and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, the crisis, the Boko Haram crisis, and the ISWAP, among other terrorist groups in the region, affected the basin. And of course, the shrinkage of the Lectured has been yesterday's discussion by researchers, by policy makers, and even regional leaders, and even the leadership of the 4 countries of Chad, Niger, Cameroon, with regard to looking into the possibilities of recharging the Lectured. But unfortunately, there were only words, and there were no real commitment with regard to actually recharging the Lectured or addressing the shrinkage of the Lectured. And happily, the technical director of the Lectured Basin Commission announced that the African Development Bank has recently made approval with regard to looking into the possibilities of feasibility studies to maybe recharging the Lectured. And he said that the Lectured is even regaining its waters. So the feasibility study will really set pathway for either the recharge of the Lectured or the dredging of available areas in the Lectured, so as to really explore the potentials of the Lectured. Because if the government do not take deliberate steps to address this issue, it's another disaster. And unfortunately, it's an issue of leadership, because we can take cue from Dubai. They had the first man-made island, the Palm Jumeirah Island, which the project, I think within the span of 6 years, they were able to establish a man-made island. man-made island. They had to bring water and so on and so forth. They had to construct houses, hotels, and so on and so forth. The place is now a tourism center for Nigerians and people across the Lake Chad and others across the globe, which is very unfortunate for us in the Lake Chad. We had everything, yet we don't have everything.
Okay, now Umaru,
so
just
there is
Umaru,
so much to take deliberate steps to work on this.
Let's try and talk to Dr. Mohammed here. First off, Umaru, thank you very much. Now, regarding this being a feasibility study, I don't know how much hope this brings because feasibility studies are often what they are, studies. It could go well and you could decide, no, this is not going to be profitable. There are financial implications, there are political implications. There are much more than we can that we can imagine. So, Dr. Mohammed, I don't know what you think about this. First, if you can explain what they mean by feasibility studies and in what sense do they mean feasibility?
Okay, thank you. Good morning once again. Thank you so much for the great opportunity to be part of this conversation. I think the feasibility study is to look at the social aspects, the economic aspect, the environmental aspect, and the cultural aspect, the livelihood aspect that has to do with people around Lake Chad, and look at what would be the likely effect of the recharging Lake Chad. Now, let me give you a good example. In a situation whereby we recharge Lake Chad, where we create a channel of water from other African countries, maybe DRC, maybe Niger, maybe Cameroon, maybe Nigeria, we channel water down to Lake Chad, then what will be the effect, with the impact of climate change? If there is increase in the iceland of water availability, if there is increase in the melting of the ice, which also invariably increase the water volume at the Atlantic Ocean, which now flow down to Lake Chad, there's a possibility we will likely experience another flood that may affect people. So feasibility study will help us to understand that at what magnitude, at what size do we really need to recharge Lake Chad? The water is shrinking from 25,000 square kilometer size of water in 1960 to 2,000 square kilometer size of water now. So like about 80% of Lake Chad site has gone completely. So if we are recharging it, how do we recharge it? Where are we going to get the water to recharge Lake Chad? What is the size of the recharging that may not likely lead to flood again that may now affect people? So the feasibility study will tell us how much do we need and how are we going to finance it, even though the representative of the African Development Bank President Additional, Dr. Baldet, said they are going to finance it under their infrastructural component of African Development Bank. So feasibility study will help us to know the financing aspect, the cost that we may likely spend, how much do we need, then the ecological effect, the environmental effect, the social effect, the political implication, and the security aspect, and the livelihood. So, but my own suggestion here is that if really we want to understand the dynamics around the Lake Chad, the feasibility study should also focus on the basic needs of the people, the children, the women, the young people, the youth. And also the feasibility study should also focus on understanding the nexus between humanitarian aspect, development aspect, and the peace building. In the past 15 years of the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast Nigeria and the part of Lake Chad, we spent billions of dollars in the last 15 years. But up till now, there is no study, no evaluation report. I've clearly stated how much we spend on humanitarian aspect, how much we spend on development, and how much we spend in building peace. So apart from the feasibility study of looking at recharging Lake Chad, we also need to know where is this money going? Is it the IDP camps, the humanitarian? Is it development, rebuilding a primary school, construction of schools? Or is it rebuilding peace? Peace is not free anywhere in the world. You need to pay before you remain peaceful anywhere. And that pay may not be necessarily paying people literally, but engaging people, empowering people economically and socially, lifting people out of poverty, most especially young people, most especially women that bear the brunt of impact of climate change, So I think these are some of the things that we need to consider when doing the feasibility study. But the feasibility study also should bear in mind the role of critical stakeholders, that they need to come on board to contribute. The people that have the local knowledge, because at times when we conduct feasibility study, we have more of an international expert doing the studies. But at times, by the time they finish the study, it becomes contextually blind. When we say the report of feasibility study is contextually blind, it means it did not cover the interest of the locals. The indigenous people, the Chad of Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon.
Dr. Mohammed.
The people from the 8 states that cover this region, their context of culture, norms, value, beliefs, traditions, and the way of life is very important.
Right.
Because if you look at the driver of this crisis, it's basically poverty in the last 15 years. What have you done to lead people out of poverty?
Dr. Mohammed, thank you. As we're talking about the risk and things to factor into, I want to also to put into focus is, one thing about large-scale water restoration or any large-scale project that is community-based and for the community, there always seem to be some sort of hold-up, right? So I have to ask whether it's they face political, financial, or technical difficulties. But another issue there is risks as well. And so I have to ask you, what are the biggest risks that could delay a visibility study such as this? Just besides, the people or taking the people along, there are other critical ones I'd like for you to talk about, politically or technical.
Yeah, I think in every feasibility study or in every restoration of either land or water, there's what we call risk. And the best way to go is to develop what we call risk mitigation strategies. So the risk mitigation strategy, we might have an environmental risk. Maybe we might say we should delay the feasibility study until during rainy season. So that might delay the feasibility study. That's environmental risk. The political risk might be when the feasibility study might happen during election. We might say let's delay it till after election to have the new government in place that we have a very strong political will. Then another risk might be the technical risk. Hiring and assembling the experts to conduct the feasibility study, the recruitment process of African Development Bank, the procurement process of experts might also delay it. Then we have the economic risk. The economic risk is that I was at the summit, I was at the forum in the last 3 days. I was in Maiduguri, and I participated in almost all the sessions. When the African Development Bank made the commitment, I was waiting to hear the amount of money they are willing to invest, either tactically, I don't know, maybe Kirawa will help me later. I did not hear the amount of money mentioned. So African Development Bank said they are going to finance the recharging of Lake Chad, but they did not tell us how much they are going to spend. So the economic risk here might be the Minister of Finance of Niger, of Nigeria, of Cameroon, and of Chad might likely pay a contributing fee. We don't know yet. So if African Development Bank is going to finance this 100%, then maybe we might not face economic risk. But if African Development Bank will now finance 80% and ask the government of Nigeria, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon to contribute 20%, then we might likely have a delay there. So that is not clear. So I think there is good for follow-up meeting with the Minister of Finance, Minister of Budget and Planning of Nigeria, Chad, Niger, and Cameroon, with African Development Bank and the Lake Chad Development Commission to clearly understand when you say you are going to finance the recharging of Lake Chad, what do you mean? That will give them the sense of the financing aspect and the mechanism of the contribution of the financing. I think that might help. And all the risks I've mentioned, the political risks, economic risks, environmental risks, and also the political risks, all the risks, by the time the technical experts sit together and analyze this, that will give us the clear sense of when we should expect the recharging of Lake Chad should commence.
Okay then.
Thank you.
Dr. Mohammed, thank you very much. Kirara, real quick, you have to summarize for me here. Dr. Mohammed asked the question, did you hear of any sum that would be invested by the African Development Bank into this project?
We've not heard of any amount with regard to the project. The feasibility studies were not allowed for follow-up at that time. I was very keen because it's a project that has been on the front burner for yesteryears, which is many experts, in fact, attribute it to one of the reasons that lead to the exacerbation of the terrorism in the Lake Chad region. So the government, regional leaders, and of course the Lake Chad Basin Commission and the African Development Bank really need to match words with action. Let's see these commitments into reality so that this problem of insecurity, the climate change, the humanitarian crisis will evaporate anytime soon.
Based on what you've just said, when does it look like this will be implemented based on everything that was discussed at the forum? From what you saw, does it seem like this would be the next year, the next 5 years? Or when would the feasibility studies be concluded so that action will be taken?
Well, for now, based on information we have at hand, is the approval has been made by the African Development Bank. But with regard to the timeline, they have not told us anything with regard to the timeline of the feasibility study. But they say it will commence this year.
Okay. And there's one thing as certain, we also have to put into this conversation climate change. Hopefully we can have this another time, because climate change continues to be a driving factor, one of the contributing factors, if not the contributing factor to this desertification and why people are leaving, you know. And so, you know, should government focus more on mitigation strategies rather than, you know, a huge, large-scale water restoration project? Is this? Only time will tell. But gentlemen, many thanks for doing this with us. Umar Kira, correspondent from News Central Television, and also Dr. Murtala Adoji Mohammed is the founder and CEO, System Strategy and Policy Lab. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all we can take. Let's go on a short break. When we return, we will most likely bring you the news, the breakfast headlines, but also we will switch gears to bring you more from Breakfast Extra. Stay here. Watching News Central Television. It's time for breakfast headlines here on News Central TV. I am Judith Atibi. The Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority has revoked the air operator certificates of East Wind Aviation Logistics Services Limited and Omini Blue Aviation. Announcing the decision on its official X handle, the NCAA said the move is part of ongoing efforts to enhance safety and regulatory compliance in the aviation sector. The regulator cited violations of Part 1.2, 1.5 of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Regulations, which prohibit the falsification, reproduction, or alteration of applications, licenses, certificates, logbooks, reports, or records. In October, an East Wind Aviation-operated helicopter crash landed in the Atlantic Ocean with 8 persons on board, raising further concerns about safety and operational integrity within the sector. The chairman of the Abia State Independent Electoral Commission, Professor George Chima, has been abducted. According to a family source, Chima was kidnapped on Friday from his residency in Okigwe, Imo State, while hosting guests, including lecturers from Abia State University, Uturu. Eyewitnesses reports said that 4 armed men stormed the house, harassed his visitors, and forcibly took him away. The Imo State Police Command has confirmed the incident, with spokesperson DSP Henry Okoye saying investigations are ongoing. Governors under the umbrella of the PDP Governors Forum have pledged to exhaust all possible avenues to resolve the ongoing crisis within the party. This resolution was reached during a closed-door meeting held in Asaba, the Delta State capital, on Friday. The meeting comes just 2 days after a chaotic PDP Board of Trustees gathering where tensions flared following an alleged attack on former youth leader Sunday Ude Okoye by supporters of Senator Samuel Anyanwu. Beyond party matters, the governors have urged the federal government to reassess its macroeconomic policies and highlighting the severe hardship these measures have inflicted on Nigerians. News Central's Austin Azu has the details.
I welcome all of you, especially my brother governors and your entourage, to Delta State. Here is the big hat. This state banquet is not the place for long speeches. It is an avenue to fellowship and share banter. It gives us all the opportunity to unwind and let off some steam before the May agenda tomorrow morning. It is my earnest expectation that upon departure, you will leave here with fond memories, and the resolutions we will reach tomorrow will impact positively on our party and our country at large. What is more important is the unity of this nation, and I believe.
In a significant political development, Senator Ned Nwoko representing Delta North Senatorial District has officially resigned from the People's Democratic Party. The senator was a foundation member of the PDP since 1999. In a letter dated 30th January 2025 and addressed to the PDP chairman of Ward 8 in Aniocha North local government area, Nwoko cited deep internal divisions within the party, which he said had made it increasingly difficult to foster unity and serve the collective interests of his constituency. With his departure, the PDP now has no serving senator representing Delta State in the National Assembly. The Police Service Commission has approved the immediate retirement of senior police officers who have either served for more than 35 years or are above 60 years of age. The decision aligns with the public service regulations and was finalized during an extraordinary meeting held on Monday, 31st January of 2025. The directive has been communicated to the Inspector General of Police for immediate implementation, ensuring that the police force remains in step with broader public service structures. Now, the meeting, presided over by PSC Chairman, retired DIG Hashimu Aguga, brought together key stakeholders, including retired Justice Adamu Paul Galumje, and representing the judiciary, and also retired DIG Taiwo Lakunu, representing the police. And off to the Federal Capital Territory, where the police command there has arrested and paraded 31 suspects linked to the theft and vandalism of critical public infrastructure. Authorities say the suspects were involved in the illegal removal of electrical cables, street lights, and manhole covers, acts that have severely disrupted essential services and posed serious security and safety risks. News Central's Edom Joseph has the details. We will try to bring you that report in our subsequent bulletins. In the meantime, the Abia State Governor Alex Oti says nothing will make him revisit the memorandum of agreement with pensioners in the state over arrears. The governor, during a media chat at the government house in Umuahia, accuses the leadership of the Nigeria Union of pensioners in the state of insincerity. News Central's Chinwe Ugeli has a report, and we'll bring you that report in our subsequent bulletins. But that's all we can take for breakfast headlines here on News Central Television. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, Breakfast Extra continues. I am Judah.
And you're welcome. We've got something extra special for you. From self-driving cars to chatbots that sound eerily like human, artificial intelligence is reshaping industries at an unprecedented speed. AI has made our lives easier. It's also sparking an intense debate. Is AI coming for our jobs? Now, while AI replaces human workers, or will it simply enhance productivity? We don't know. Which industries are at the highest risk of automation is also another question that we should be asking.
And even most importantly, can humans and AI coexist in the workplace without mass job displacement? I, for one, would like AI to squabble up against me. Well, on today's Extra Special, we are diving deeper into this conversation to ask the real question, is it World War Z? Joining us is Kolawole Adebayo. He's a tech analyst and creative director, Brainbox. Also joining us is Emmanuel Chimaobi. He's a behavioral communications expert, and both gentlemen join us live today to have, I should have an AI join us as well so they can speak for themselves. But unfortunately, we couldn't get one to join the program. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with us.
Thank you very much.
Adebayo, let me get started with you and ask, right? AI is advancing at a staggering pace. We now have DeepSeek. That is such an ARPLE. I love that name. So this ChatGPT, OpenAI, the rest of them. From your perspective, should workers be worried about their jobs? Should I be shaking in my boots? Because AI is not even sound like Corsa at this point. You might as well start reading the news. Don't get any ideas on News Central.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I think it's not a question about if workers should be scared about their jobs. I think people are already scared about their jobs. Just 2 weeks ago, I was reading a report by Bloomberg Intelligence about how AI could replace 200,000 people on the Wall Street.
Right.
There was also another show I watched on the CBS where Kai-Fu Lee is a serial entrepreneur and investor. He's also the chairman of Sinovation Ventures. He was saying like 40% of jobs might get replaced. So the fear is already real. Right. But I think one thing we're not also talking about is how that AI could unlock some new jobs. You know? I was listening to Microsoft CEO, I think 3 days ago. It was talking about how AI could actually help to enhance productivity right now for your job, as well as create net new jobs. That's the way he puts it. So I think the fear is real, but one thing we're not talking about enough is the opportunity, right? There are a lot of opportunities. There'll be new jobs for the future. There will be some pain in the short term, you know, but I think we underestimate the capability of human beings to evolve. This is not the first time we're seeing like a new technology come on the scene to try to...
When was the last time?
I mean, this is the first time in a long time that we're seeing this kind of technology at such a scale, right? You know, but I mean, during the Industrial Revolution, there were steam engines that replaced people who were like riding chariots and things like that. So human beings will always evolve, you know. And so it's a good thing if AI is actually helping us to evolve better. But the fear is there, right? The fear is there. And I think what we need to be doing is shaping the narrative that, yeah, there is the fear, but then there's going to be a lot of opportunities as well.
Interesting. Judith, this is going to interest you now, and by you too. Emmanuel, let me bring you in on this one. Very interesting parallel. Let me draw this parallel. Emmanuel, do you remember when our parents used to say to us, don't use your calculators, you won't always have one, you better use your brain. And in the long run, at the end of the day, we now have calculators even on our watches. And so you start asking yourself, why didn't I invest in knowing how to use a calculator? Because maybe by now I'd know how to use the sines, cosines, sexes, and tangents, and all of that, deriving hypotenuse and all of that.
Yeah.
But we can't do that. But it was there all our lives growing up from the 80s. Is AI the same thing? Is it filling in the same spot? Do you think that eventually we'll be employed based on our ability to use AI or the lack of it? Emmanuel, if you're still there, please, I'd like you to answer that. Is AI the next scientific calculator, and should we be investing in how to use it more than running away from it? I'm hoping
I would say that AI is not the scientific calculator, but it is already. It is already. And I think investing in knowing more about it would go a long way. So I get to understand that most people fear what they don't understand. Just like you said, our parents in those days warned us about using calculator, but use our brain. So our parents were so much afraid. Why are they afraid? Because they don't understand it. So if they had gotten a very great understanding of it at that particular point in time, I think they would have invested so much in it. So instead of fearing, instead of having this deep fear of AI, I think investing to know how to use AI to make your work more efficient, to make your delivery faster would be the best. So at this point, I think we should be talking about how do we make people understand that this thing is not here to replace them, but to make them better at delivering their to-dos. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Emmanuel, because I have to say this, right? When you look at, you are a behavioral communications communication expert, and we also have Adebayo here. I think the worry is not necessarily not being able to move with the times in terms of skills, but more or less the loss of human touch, if that makes any sense. And I think that's a fear, that's the real fear, that we would be inept, we'd lose the touch, the human touch, and also there's some certain level of skills. For example, if you're writing emails, you don't need to write the email, you don't have to go and look for it, you just AI can generate templates for you. You know, AI can actually write it for you. AI can write movies. They can edit. There's so much that AI can do now that it's not. That's really where the worry and the fear is. So I'm gonna comment. I'll start with you. As you're talking about, you know, the jobs, it made me think about the World Economic Forum as well. They put out their Future of Jobs report for 2025 earlier last month, and a lot of jobs are going away, you know, whether it's the desk, the answering machine, or the cash register, or the person at the till. Those jobs are slowly fading out. And so how does one now prepare for the future, you know, in terms of just positioning yourself for this new era of AI?
I think I should mention that and I heard OpenAI CEO also talk about this. Most of the jobs that will get displaced would be jobs that involve repetitive tasks, you know, what you call mundane tasks. You know, say you were like a clerical staff and all you're doing is chipping away at the typewriter or keyboard, and that's what you're doing, right? So repetitive tasks, and that is not necessarily a bad thing if we have to like get more creative and, you know, learn how to do things better. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. But I also want to add that, you know, jobs that require a lot of human touch, you know, emotions. Say if you were like a doctor or a lawyer, you know, those are going to be more difficult to displace, because now there's going to be more premium on, you know, human connection. You know, it's kind of like a paradox, because AI could actually help humans to become closer to each other. You know, because now we're going to see the value more and more in human connection, human emotions, and things like that. So just in case you're watching and you're like in that sort of space, you know, there's nothing to fear. I also saw a research that did like a survey, and they were asking people, who would you rather prefer? Would you prefer an AI lawyer or a human lawyer? And most people said they were going to prefer a human lawyer. Would you prefer an AI doctor or a human doctor? Most people said they were going to prefer a human doctor, right? And that is not to say AI is not being used in this industry. Just the other day, I spoke about how hospitals are now using chatbots for diagnosis, you know, especially in the mental health space, where you can go and see a doctor, and then, you know, when you consider the patient to doctor ratio, so it's not necessarily that these tools, these AI tools, are bad, right? So yeah, there'll be jobs that will be displaced. You know, if you look at the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, some of the jobs that were like the top jobs in those eras were they're not there anymore, right? Because, you know, new technology has come to like displace things. But then there were also unlocking of like some other new rules. For instance, you have YouTube creators now. That wasn't a thing 20 years ago is even too far, but that wasn't a thing 20 years ago. So they're going to be new jobs. As I said the last time I was on the news, I said that we're going to see more roles in data science, data analysis.
Yeah, because that's really the top 5 jobs, data.
Yeah, data annotation, because when you talk about AI, you're really talking about data in motion.
But doesn't that create a conveyor belt? And Emmanuel, I hope you're on this conversation. That creates a conveyor belt of people advancing more and more when it comes to skill, when it comes to digital skill. and then the people on the bottom who cannot even afford to get these skills are just simply weeded out. So what happens to these people who lose their jobs? For instance, you said repetitive jobs, for instance. Well, you'd find that AI would take over. What if that person only has the educational background to only do that kind of job? What happens to those people? How can they better prepare? Maybe I should be asking Emmanuel this. How can they better prepare if I'm of low means and I find my job threatened? Plenty of jobs are threatened right now. If you're a content creator, whether you like it or not, AI is getting to that bit where you can simply just ask Meta to give you an image and boom, it's out there. Artists are losing their job. Let's even talk about people in communications like myself and Judith here.
I'm not losing my job.
Judith, calm down, calm down. But the fact is that you have heard AI that sounds, you can actually recreate your own voice and make it say things that you never said. You know, it's crazy. So how can we now prepare for such an era where our jobs are on the line? What can we do to better ourselves if we find ourselves in these little units of ability that are replaceable by AI? Emmanuel, please.
It's quite simple. Quite simple. Like, I have not done my job better until I started using AI. Like, there are so many AI out there. So one thing I understand is that when people hear AI, what they think about is Terminator, you know, the computer, the ironclad stuff, you know. They think about Matrix, all of the destruction and all of that, but people fail to look at the good side of it. Now, also talking about losing your job, no, I don't think people are going to lose their job. But if you want to remain where you are, if you don't move with the trend, then definitely you would lose your job. You understand? You have to learn how to use these tools, have to learn how to use these platforms. For instance, there are so many courses out there that you can learn, you can take for free. Some of these courses are even for free, which I have taken quite a lot of them, and I am still learning till tomorrow. So for the fact that you can tell AI to do this and it doesn't mean that you are going to use what it gives you that way. There is still human touch because you are going to guide it. Now, what so many people fail to do is that they don't understand, they don't know how to guide some of these AI platforms to give them what they want. So for me, I would say that learning how to guide AI to produce the result you want is a skill on its own. And I bet you that not everybody has this skill. And it's not something that you just wake up with, it's something that you have to learn. But first thing that you're going to do is to remove the fear that AI is going to make you lose your job and start having the mindset that it's going to help you make your job better. Yes, it will help you write your email. And also let's remember that AI makes mistakes. So you don't just ask it to give you this thing and then you go on and distribute what it gave you. No, you have to sit down and read through. Make sure that it aligns with what is in your head. So it's as simple as that.
Right. As you're saying that about how AI is not even foolproof or fail-proof, and it does then make mistakes, it now brings a question about, it brings us back home to Nigeria. We've been talking about this on a global worldview, but let's come back home to Nigeria. Our education, literacy stats is a conversation on a different level. The number of those who are educated, uneducated, different level. Our informal sector, our economy is mostly driven by the informal sector. And the informal sector comprises of people who are either a high school dropout or they don't have a university certificate to begin with. And so there is that conversation that needs to be had in terms of human capital building. How can we get AI to, on that level that it is globally here in Nigeria, how can we get it? And I know it's through human capital. What would then be your advice for human capital development here in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I'm going to lean in a bit on what Emmanuel said about prompt engineering. Not everybody can use AI tools, right? At the end of the day, there are tools, and some people can use them better than some people. First of all, in the corporate world, what I think that corporate organizations should be doing is actually training their employees on how to use these tools to, become more productive. And that's going to help take away that fear we've talked about before, to let them see like these tools are actually here to help you become even 10 times better than you were before. And that's the first thing we can do in the corporate world. These trainings have to be ongoing, and they have to be like really deep-seated and really just cut into the meat of the whole matter and let people know, especially people working in those sectors, how these tools can help them. And then when we come back to the informal sector, I have a little bit of a controversial take, but I think we're still a long way off.
Oh, we like controversies over here. Go ahead.
I think we're still a little bit, a long way off, especially in Africa. For instance, when you talk about AI, and you talk about maybe training an AI model, you need a lot of compute power, you need data centers. We have a few data centers in Nigeria, right? But where's the energy to power them? Where are the cooling requirements? We live in a country where the national grid collapses every Eke market day, right? I mean, it's the reality of things, We're doing a lot of things that are really nice. I looked into the national AI strategy last year. We're talking about collaborations between government agencies and the academia. There's a 3MTT program, which has been fantastic. There are some new fundings, from Google and all of these, organizations, right? But we're still a long way off.
Suffice to say, we're backwards because we don't have the capacity
the infrastructure to support the sort of development that would power the next phase is not really there. So, for instance, if
hang on, let's really sink our teeth into that one now. And Emmanuel, please do take note, because this question is going to go to both of you, Emmanuel and Bayo here in the studio. Let's talk about the security implications of AI. If we're not ready for the structure itself, like you said, we're a bit backwards here in Africa, in Nigeria to be specific, because of our lack of energy to gather data, then what about the security implications? Can we guard against these? A very simple instance would be one deepfake, for instance. Are people even aware that there's such a thing as deepfake? Our producer gave an instance of his, I think,
of a relative.
Wife, or a relative, who somebody was almost scammed because she was given a phone where she heard her madam say, give them the product. It's her madam, it's her madam. And we've seen this kind of issues before, where people have, they're contacted and told that their wards have been kidnapped, and you can hear the voice. The security implications for a country like Nigeria, where we don't have that infrastructure or the support structure for that infrastructure, how are we going to manage AI then? Let me ask Emmanuel, please, first, before Adebayo gives his own submission.
Okay, so for me, I would say that companies should really invest in security tools like Darktrace. So Darktrace is an AI-based threat detection. And also, they can also go for IBM Watson security, to monitor and block attacks in real time. So I think these two platforms, these two AI tools, investing in these two AI tools would help to detect threats, especially when it comes to data protection and all of that. And also, employees should be trained on how to use these tools as well. That's for me.
So that's where it applies to a situation where this is like business, or it has something to do with commerce or an establishment. But what about the individuals out there, Adebayo? What about the individuals who, like my mother, for instance, if somebody gives her a phone and says, Zeno is on the phone, what do they?
These ties into cybersecurity, which is something that I talk about a lot. What we need to do is create a national awareness campaign, like a series of national awareness campaigns. Because, when we talk about security and fraud and detection, Darktrace is a very lovely tool, but the market woman on the streets doesn't know what Darktrace is, doesn't even know if there's any trace of Darktrace anywhere, right? And what we need to do for those types of people, and because they're not precluded from, the threats, the fraud threats, every other day. Every other day we hear of somebody losing money in their bank account because they received a message or there was a call. And with deepfake, somebody can actually sound like your daughter or your son, and you think they're the ones. So there should be like a series of national awareness campaigns that really gets to the grassroots. And I spoke about this in an article that I wrote for Inc. Africa last year or 2 years ago, that really gets to these people, right? We're doing some stuff, right? But I don't think we're doing enough. We should leverage whatever media channels we have, the radio, the TV, newspapers. We should go on the streets, right? And actually sensitize these people, because at the end of the day, they make up a major part of the economy of Nigeria, right? When you look at the farmers, for instance, agriculture is still, there's oil, but agriculture is still like a mainstay of our economy. And, the informal sector, bricklayers, roadside mechanics, everybody needs to be cyber aware, and to have the information that can actually protect them against AI-powered security threats like deepfakes and the likes. So I think that's what we can do in the informal sector.
Cyber aware.
All right, now that we've established all of this, is there a chance I can also talk to my bosses? No, but seriously, now that we're drawing this conversation to a close, really, and I'm watching this, you have made a good case for AI. You've made a good case for, upscaling and moving with the times. You've made a great case for quelling my fears about whether or not AI is going to take my job, right? But there's also the fear of the creative, all right? The authors who write stories, the artists who paint pictures, the sculptors. Those sectors are literally done by talent. And we have seen AI also start to generate such art as well. We've seen it even in the Academy Awards. I think about almost all of the movie of the year, except for one, has some form of AI in it, whether it was written by AI, directed, or post-production was done by AI. And so it begs to ask the question, the creative economy and AI. How can there be a merger or a synergy between the two, so much so that it doesn't replace everyone's talent or hard work? Because I feel like it's propaganda. I'm just going to say it. Yeah, I know we had this conversation earlier. I told you I feel like this is propaganda because there are people who still have that work, who still wants to paint and do all of that, and there's those who are able to generate it with AI.
I like to think of this conversation really not as a human versus AI conversation, but a human plus AI conversation, because the future is one of collaboration at the end of the day. Now, your question, I think, leans into sort of like copyright issues. We've seen that happen. The New York Times sued OpenAI in 2023. The case is still ongoing, and they said, you guys trained your model with a lot of our articles, and why are you going to do that? We didn't know about this, and the case is still ongoing. And maybe I should say that because this is new technology and things are evolving, there are many things we cannot answer. I think some of the predictions may be even skewed. There's nothing we know for sure, right?
Is AI gathering information about us? Is my chat GPT gathering information about me? This just struck me.
Well, but you know that you've given out enough, so much information.
No, I hope you're still here.
When people ask me that question, I'm like, Facebook gets your information anyways. You're on Facebook. So
your search history.
OpenAI says no. When you look at like their terms, know, and they try as much as possible to let the user know that they are protected in a way, but you have to be careful about the sort of things you put into because say for instance an attacker takes over your phone, and there are people who actually, if you look at the conversation history with their chat assistants or these AI assistants, they're like private conversations that they have. You shouldn't be doing that.
Like for instance, write me a breakup letter for my side chick with her name and everything in there. It's strange because these things happen. People are using AI.
I went to the bank, they told me this, like,
Judith, listen, people are using AI, especially ChatGPT, for the most mundane things. Write me a caption for Facebook. And now, if you are the sort that is very effusive with your information to that chatbot, imagine somebody grabbing your device and simply asking, I've forgotten, what is my PIN number, for instance?
Yeah, obviously there are a lot of like safety issues. Just the other day, a kid in the US got so addicted or got so used to a chat a chatbot. I can't remember the name. I don't know if it was
it's a
character AI, and then he committed suicide.
Yeah,
right. So there are like safety issues. There's the bias issue that Emmanuel spoke about, where an AI model hallucinates and fabricates things.
Just a second, Emmanuel. Did you try that challenge where it asked you to ask ChatGPT what it thinks about you? Did you try it, and what did it come up with?
Say stuff like, you are very precise, you always want to be clear on every information. So something, because I engage AI as if it's my friend.
Exactly.
So I ask this question like, what do you think I should do when, like, you know, such kind of question. So I don't go directly, help me do it. No. I ask it, what do you think I should do? This is the situation I'm facing. What do you think I should do? So it goes on to produce such report. So when I ask it about, what do you think about me? Tell me about me. So these are the kind of information, these are the responses you give me. You are precise, you want to be very clear, you like such kind of responses.
But is it a risk? Is it a risk to interact with your AI in such a manner?
Okay, so first of all, I would advise that for you to use AI, make sure you are using AI from trusted organizations. Like ChatGPT is owned by OpenAI. So these are big organizations, trusted. Gemini, owned by Google. Microsoft, IBM. So these are organizations with strong privacy policies. So I don't think there's a need for that fear. And also, instead of that fear, I think people should also learn to secure their devices. Yes, learn to secure your device.
Yeah, you're rounding up. All right. I was going to, as we wrap up this conversation, again, let me sound the alarm on proficiency. There is the need for us to still emphasize the need for a human to still be proficient at what
human touch.
We still have to be proficient. You know, and so as much as we're saying AI makes you better, AI is faster, is this, is that, we are seeing it take commonplace even towards the arts, which I really care about. So how then can we balance it out in terms of proficiency and still an AI?
Oh no, that's very important. Researchers at an institute, I can't remember the name, said there's the potential for AI to actually make human beings less creative. You know, because every now and then you're turning to AI for little things and you're not thinking about it. So that's a potential risk. You know? Those are things that could happen, and which is why what I said about how you can use AI, especially in the corporate sector, because that's really where we can talk about AI. You know, we can't really talk about AI in the informal sector as of now. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know what's going to change. So, but in the corporate sector, or in the business or commerce world, we need to be training employees on the right way to use AI. Because when you, and this is what I say, when you make AI do everything for you, you are invariably agreeing to the notion that it will replace you. You know, because that's what you're doing. If you're saying, AI, do everything for me, take this and do everything for me, and then you come back to say it's not going to replace you, it just did, you know. So we need to talk about the best ways to use
AI
AI.
plus human, not AI
versus human.
Versus human.
Yes, not AI over human.
Human above
AI.
That's it. Everybody are giving an equation. My own equation is human.
You know the funny thing? You see, I can tell people's, I can tell what generation people are from their fear of AI.
I'm not afraid of it. I have power over it.
No. If you saw the very original Terminator, then you'd be scared.
That's right.
You know, it's
some people think we're going to get there, but I don't think so. Where machines and robots take over and they start to do things. Yeah.
All right. Well, gentlemen, many thanks for coming on.
Indeed. Thank you very much. We didn't get to discuss AI and education, but it is a very essential conversation.
You know?
So maybe in your spare time, you could do a little bit of research on that, and maybe we'll bring you a package on AI and education sometime soon. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Thank you very much, Adebayo, for joining us to have this conversation. And hey, AI is definitely not replacing us. For instance, can it do this? Take us away.
Weirdo.
She was supposed to do that.
trust, respect, and accountability. Those three words are the pillars that should define the relationship between the citizens and law enforcement. But in Nigeria, especially in Lagos, where encounters with the police can range from indifferent to outright hostile, the question arises, if you saw a police officer in trouble, would you step in to help? Now, it's a complex question, shaped by personal experiences, social realities, and the history of policing in Nigeria. And so to get a sense of what Lagosians think, we took to the streets to hear their thoughts. And we asked them the question, would you help a police officer in trouble? And here's what they had to say. Take a look.
First of all, for a policeman to need a help, number one, you consider the situation at ground, because everybody sees police as peacekeeper. So in a case that is in a danger, maybe it was attacked or by robbery or something like that, the first thing you have to do is to call the security personnel that are around before you step in, because you can't just step in and help a police officer in a uniform. I saw a scenario that a criminal is trying to escape, then he saw a policeman, he attacked the policeman. So in a case, you as a civilian, you remember that for a policeman to be attacked, who are you to render an help? Before you render that help at all, you will think of your own security first, because you look around the situation that is going on, that can I offer help? So to me, it sounds somehow.
I don't just know, but to me, they are useless. They are not doing their job very well. They are just on the streets looking for all these upcoming boys, all these Yahoo boys. So they just want to search them and take something from them. So all those things are no good. That's not the job they are supposed to be doing.
Wallah, I no go help him. I was having an issue, you get. So police was there. So I actually need help from police. Unfortunately, they asked me to drop something or give them something. So if I even meet police for that kind of situation, I will just go my way.
Actually depends on the crime or whatever that is going on at the moment, because most times you're trying to help will even endanger your own life. Yeah, as far as it's concerned, you are trying to be of a help, then you find out that you are even the one falling into the victim. While the person in victim, maybe you might be set free and you are the one to be in victim. That's just it. So yeah, it actually depends. And there are times when you see issue and you want to help, your help will actually count. And there are times when you want to help and your help will actually turn to danger to you.
Now, clearly, opinions are very divided. While some believe in upholding humanity regardless of uniform, others feel the scars of past encounters with law enforcement run too deep to ignore. Now, this speaks to a much bigger issue that need to rebuild, and that's the need to, rebuild trust between the police and the people they are meant to serve. So what do you think? Would you help a police officer in distress? Let me ask us in the studio to begin with. We've got none other than Onyechi Obaro, who's on standby to bring up news. Oye, if you see your fellow man in the black uniform in desperate need, would you help? I trust you will now, you will.
Depends on the situation on the ground. If they're exchanging fires, no way, I'll take cover. But
you're Superwoman now. You bring out your shield.
No. I wasn't made with bulletproof. I was not. I was not. So at least they are the ones wearing the bulletproof. So if it's exchange of fire, no. I'll take cover instead.
Mazuna, I'm sure Mazuna will help now. He's very fast. He'll be on his power bike. He'll be like, get in!
Listen, somebody in the crew said, if police is in trouble, that means water don't pass, guy. What am I going to do to help?
True, I'm with you on that.
And you know, the fun thing is, if they're stranded on the roadside and they're like flagging down cars, like nobody picks them up.
I do.
I understand that one.
I do.
That one I understand.
That's being human, and I think we should be more human to each other.
With impersonation in Nigeria, I don't know.
It's a different case in Nigeria. But it's all good. And it's time to talk sport. Let's talk a bit of sport right now.
Oh, yes, please.
All right.
You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. All right, you're welcome to watching Breakfast Extra. We're going to sport right now, and the Nigerian Cricket Federation, the president of the side, Uya Pata, he has highlighted the importance of proper investment in the sport. This is a key factor in the successes of the junior female Yellow Greens following the historic performance at the 2025 ICC Under-19 Women's T20 World Cup in Malaysia. Now, the team was honored. You can see them dancing over there with a grand reception at the Cricket Lab, Tafawa Balewa Square, after making history by defeating New Zealand, reaching the Super 6 stage and securing win over Ireland. They also earned a point in the draw, with England finishing 5th, and automatically they qualified for the next edition of the tournament. They were led by Captain Lockie Pierty, and the junior female Yellow Greens received this hero's welcome upon their arrival at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos before heading to the Cricket Lab for the celebratory event. Akpata praised the team for their outstanding achievement and emphasized the continued success in Nigeria's cricket. It all depends on further investment and development of the sport on the grassroots level.
It's just getting a group of people in the board aligned and working on a strategy, primarily driven around development and high performance. And after about 4 years, we are seeing the results. That's it. Of course, it's beyond our immediate expectations, but we're really, really excited. It shows that with the right investments, with everybody aligned, you can achieve results.
Congratulations to the girls and welcome back home. But it's time to talk another tennis. Nigeria returns to the Davis Cup World Group 2 playoffs after a year's absence, facing South Africa in a 5-match tie at the Greenleaf Tennis Stadium in Pretoria, South Africa for the 1st and 2nd of February 2025. The competition includes 4 singles and 1 doubles match as David Epeyon, Nigeria's number 2, opens the tie against South Africa's top player, Philip Henin. Christopher Bulus, Nigeria's number 1, he will have to face Chris Van Wyk in the 2nd singles match. Reverse singles follow on Sunday with Bulus taking Henin and Epeyon also taking Van Wyk. Mohamed Emmanuel will compete in doubles against Alec Barkley and Leo Matheson. The draw was finalized in a ceremony at Hatfield with ITTF officials and team representatives present for the match. They will have to begin at 10 a.m. Nigerian time. Now to basketball, where Detroit Pistons forward Isaiah Stewart, he has been suspended for 1 game without pay. This is due to repeated flagrant fouls this season. The 23-year-old will miss Detroit's home game against Dallas as a result of the NBA rules that mandates a 1-game suspension when a player accumulates 5 flagrant foul points in a particular season. So Stewart, who entered Wednesday's game against Indiana Pacers with 4 points, received a flagrant foul 2, and he was ejected in the 2nd quarter after delivering a forearm to Pacers center Thomas Bryant. The league also fined Stewart $50,000 for inappropriate gestures following that ejection. Pistons coach JB, he defended Stewart, citing verbal exchanges during the game. Any further flagrant fouls could result to an additional suspension for Stewart. There you have it, sports update at this time. We return with more on Breakfast Extra. I am Onyinyechi Obaro.
And you're welcome. There's so many top stories inside of the Daily for this morning. We thought we should touch on a few of them, and we're going to be starting from the Saturday Independent newspaper. So if you join us as we take a look at this, I'm going to save the big one for last, but under gubernatorial, the tribunal begins hearing. That's at the very top. Parties to present 149 witnesses, and Anambra Colors shuttle bus drivers protest. force government to halt arrest vehicle confiscation. Somewhere there at the bottom, tragedy, how Nigerian hotels are fast turning to slaughter slabs and why Lagos 2024 Dirty December is the new gold standard for festive celebrations. Tell us about it. Commissioner of Arts, Culture and Tourism, took so long for you to note. It's already February. But in any case, the big headline for the Saturday Independent is this: NAFDAC and the LEA raised the alarm of a spike in drug abuse. Now, I'll tell you something. Yes, a spike.
Took you long, you know.
Oh, no. But you see something, because of the present state, the economic state of Nigeria, people people are turning to other measures to try and, you know, cope, exactly. And this is one way. So you'd find these kind of things happen in these kinds of situations when it comes to the economy. Yeah, I can go on and on about this, but we don't have time because we have other dailies.
Well, I would also argue that we've seen an upward climb since 2021.
Okay, this is in reference to what exactly? Any instances or conditions that have caused that climb, you think?
Because our inflation, when you look at our inflation rates, it really sets a precedence. Our inflation rate is a very good number to look at that. And also the JACPA as well. There was also the JACPA. There's also our music. When you see the music, there's now more, there's a song about codeine. What's the name of the song again?
Yeah, we can't tell, but maybe
I can say it's a song about codeine. There's a song about, it's now so referenced in pop culture.
Yeah, pop culture for a bit.
There's now also sales of it on you know, the softer versions of it, the
gateway drugs,
consumables, you know, now being, you know, marketed on social media under aliases and names. So I don't, and then also those big bursts that happened in 2021 in VGC with the chemist in VGC and the other big bust that we saw that really made headlines. So I think that from 2021 we saw an upward climb. So I don't think it was a spike necessarily. I think it's always been. It's just. Yeah, I think it's always been. It's stopped, but we saw an upward climb from 2021. That's what I was saying. And it became cheaper as well. You could buy it.
How do you know this?
No, because okay, so I know this because but also
she's a journalist. She researches, of course.
Yeah, of course.
There you go. Saved you that time.
I always wanted to joke, but then I realized I can't joke. Now my brain is like, Judith, you cannot joke.
Don't joke about that.
Seriously.
In any case.
But also I'm a journalist, and also I watch people and I observe a lot.
Okay.
And so our nightlife grew a lot. It was 2021 that it blew because everyone came outside, and so as it blew, it became the gateway drugs, like you said, it was commodified, and then you can
pick it off the counter.
You know. Yeah. And not just counter like in walking, like they sell it to you. Hawk it to you. If you go out to any of the popular spots, there are literally people that, we get to escape.
So you want to draw this, you want to draw a parallel. I hate to do this, but then Dirty December was actually what it was because why? Well, are you saying that we don't have regulation when it comes to these drugs and perhaps maybe people are flocking to Lagos because there is a proliferation of these sales?
No.
I hate to do that, but it's actually a conversation that happened in December.
But Dirty December.
Sorry, it seems like this is the only what's it called we're taking, but it's relevant to discuss this.
Yeah. Dirty December didn't do anything. Dirty December has always been. Dirty December in and of itself, when you think about it, before there was Dirty December, December was busy. We love Christmas.
What fuels that energy in December?
So we love Christmas. So I don't think that there's any drug use in December that is different from drug use in February or January.
I think there is.
Because when you look at the headlines, they're saying that there's a spike in drug use. They didn't say Dirty December or any season. Do you know what I mean? So it's still the same.
I will leave the argument because I don't have the facts. So I will agree with you on what you're saying. But then I just think that if you think of population increase in Lagos at that time, whether you like it or not, there would be some sort of stats that would show that there is a spike, especially in December, because there's more people, more foreigners who come to Nigeria to have more access to these.
I don't think they do that. They come into Nigeria for access to. I feel like the reason why they come into Lagos is because we are party people. There's literally a song that's called Lagos
So you've just said
Party.
it. There's the correlation between party and drug use.
No. There is a correlation between the economic downturn.
That too.
And that's a correlation that we draw first. There's a correlation. And I said you can trace it back to 2021 because that's where we saw the downward decline from our inflation number. It was skyrocketing. Food prices were going up. And then people were looking for cheaper alternative to get away. Also, there's also the Japa syndrome. People were leaving. Also, 2021, 2020, just out of the pandemic, there was an influx of people who wanted to go out and have themselves a good time. And how are you going to have yourself a good time? Give me some of that. You know what I mean? So there's that. But I would say that the reason why Dirty December is also popular is because of Afrobeats. Our stars are back home. The only time you get to rub shoulders with the stars, the Burna Boy, the RS Star, the Thames, the South African stars who come in, is only when you come to party with them at a DJ Obi's house or anywhere else in Lagos. So I would say there's that.
Our intention was to bring you more than just one
paper, it's a nice debate.
Front page, but unfortunately we went into that debate, which was exciting. But I'll tell you what we'll do now. Let's take a short break because Judith is about to bring us the news. Let's get to know what exactly is happening out there again. We'll be back.
And it's time for breakfast headlines here on News Central Television. I am Judith at TV. The Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority has revoked the air operator certificates of East Wind Aviation Logistics Services Limited and Omini Blue Aviation. Announcing the decision on its official X handle, the NCAA said the move is part of ongoing efforts to enhance safety and regulatory compliance in the aviation sector. The regulator cited violations of Part 1.2, 1.5 of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Regulations, which prohibit the falsification, reproduction, or alteration of applications, licenses, certificates, logbooks, records, reports, or reports. Now in October, an East Wind Aviation operated helicopter crash-landed in the Atlantic Ocean with 8 persons on board, raising further concerns about safety and operational integrity within the sector. The chairman of the Abia State Independent Electoral Commission, Professor George Chima, has been abducted. According to a family source, Chima was kidnapped on Friday from his residency in Okigwe, Imo State, while hosting guests, including lecturers from the Abia State University, Uturu. Eyewitnesses reports say that four armed men stormed the house, harassed his visitors, and forcibly took him away. The Imo State Police Command has confirmed the incident, with spokesperson DSP Henry Okoye saying investigations are underway. In a significant political development, Senator Ned Nwoko, representing Delta North Senatorial District, has officially resigned from the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The senator was a foundation member of the PDP since 1999. In a letter dated 30th January 2025, an address to the PDP chairman of Ward 8 in Aniocha North local government area, Nwoko cited deep internal divisions within the party, which he said had made it increasingly difficult to foster unity and serve the collective interests of his constituency. With his departure, the PDP now has no 7th senator representing Delta State in the National Assembly. The Police Service Commission has approved the immediate retirement of senior police officers who have either served for more than 35 years or are above 60 years of age. The decision aligns with public service regulations and was finalized during an extraordinary meeting held on Friday, 31st January 2025. The directive has been communicated to the Inspector General of Police for immediate implementation, ensuring that the police force remains in step with broader public service structures. The meeting, presided over by PSC Chairman, retired DIG Hashimu Aguga, brought together key stakeholders, including retired Justice Adamu Paul Galunje, who was representing the judiciary, and also retired DIG Taiwo Lakunu, who represented the police.
Establishing a comprehensive and organized framework for distributing palliatives.
Abia State Governor Alex Oti says nothing will make him revisit the memorandum of agreement with pensioners in the state over arrears. The governor, during a media chat at the government house in Umuahia, accuses the leadership of the Nigeria Union of Pensioners in the state of insincerity. News Central's Chinwe Ugeli completes the story. And we will try to bring you that report in our subsequent bulletin. But that's all we can take for breakfast headlines here. It's back to Breakfast Extra on News Central Television. I am Judah Atimi. Thanks for watching.
You're welcome back. It's our final hour here for a Saturday edition on Breakfast Extra. Now, in a recent turn of events, the Trump administration announced a temporary freeze on federal grants and loans, aiming to review and eliminate what it deemed wasteful expenditure. This decision was met with significant backlash, leading to a swift reversal. While this policy U-turn was or has dominated headlines in the U.S., its ripple effects are felt beyond American borders. Many developing nations heavily reliant on U.S. aid for healthcare initiatives, infrastructure and projects, and also educational programs faced immediate uncertainty during the freeze.
And so this incident underscores a critical question. How vulnerable are developing countries to the policy shifts of donor nations? Well, to answer these questions and more, we're joined by Professor Oyewole Tomori. He's a renowned virologist, and he joins us to just discuss the potential impacts on global health initiatives and the lessons developing nations can learn from this episode. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you for coming on.
My pleasure.
Let's just get started and just talk about, the recent freeze and the subsequent reversal of the U.S. federal aid have highlighted the fragility of international support systems. And so I have to ask, from your perspective, how did this, temporary halt or freeze impact global health programs, particularly those combating infectious diseases for many developing countries depending on consistent aid for their healthcare infrastructure? What immediate challenges did they face during the funding freeze?
Thank you very much. I think the effect is going to be quite profound, not just on developing countries, but you also know that they're withdrawn from WHO itself. They contribute about 15% voluntarily to WHO activities. And then in different countries, like Nigeria, for example, I think about a year ago, they spent almost about $600,000, which is about almost $1 billion on health issues in Nigeria, malaria, HIV, even laboratory support, all those things. So it's obviously going to have very severe effects on us. But it's so surprising that we are surprised by what he did. When he came in 2016, he did the same thing. So why did we expect when he's coming back now, he won't do the same thing? We should have been prepared for it. We have been waiting too dependent on all these foreign things. And that's why we're where we are today. What is happening in America shouldn't be affecting what we're doing in Nigeria. If we're putting our money in the right place and spending our money well, we can do without all this so-called international aid. And I think that's the direction we should go. Talk about wake-up call. I hear that one. We set alarm to wake us up. As soon as the alarm rings, we switch off the alarm. It calls again, we switch it off. And that's what is happening to us in many African countries. We're too dependent on all this so-called foreign aid. And when you look at foreign aid, actually, as the Bible says, the man who is giving you the aid benefits more than the one who receives the aid. So what's wrong with us?
Professor, just based on what you have just said, from the past, what were the benefits for these foreign nations for helping Africa, especially when it comes to these funds? What were the benefits, and what were they expecting to get back? What economically or socially, what were the benefits?
First of all, the benefits arose because we did not do our job. If we had done about well, they don't need to come in and give us any benefit. If our health system is working well, if we put the right amount of funding into health and not spend it on frivolous things, we don't need anybody to come and take care of malaria in Nigeria. We don't need anybody to come and take care of. So in a base of benefits, the individual person who gets that aid, the man who gets treated for malaria, the one who gets the samples tested, the HIV cases that are the care, counseling that comes up. Those are the areas where the individual benefits. But let me tell you about international aid. I spent quite some time working with WHO. I'm telling you that 60 to 70% of whatever they bring goes back to them in one form or the other.
Mm-hmm.
If they're coming to your country and they're going to give you a vehicle, for example, they're not going to buy it from innocent. They'll go to their country. All those little things which we assume that we're benefiting from, we're actually losing. I mean, they are helping their own people, and we are paying the loan. We're paying for the loan for it. I mean, it looks so stupid to us and to me. I don't know why we have not been so sensible about all these issues, about foreign aid and all that.
Professor.
They gain better, more than we do. So
let's talk about gains for us, shall we?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Now, this incident, as you rightfully put it, raises concerns about our reliability on foreign aid, but also it now puts a center our healthcare, whether it's at the primary level, primary healthcare centers, at the local levels, or even in general. Our patient-to-doctor ratio is pretty much one of the lowest in the entire world. There's also the Jackpot syndrome, which have hit the healthcare sector really hard, with a lot of brain drain in the medical sector. And so what can we do to build more resilient healthcare infrastructure, as well as resilient healthcare system that can weather the storm? You know, there's infectious diseases. We have to grapple with public health concerns day in, day out, besides just the ones on the global stage, Corona or Ebola or the likes, SARS and the rest. There's also ones that are here, like cholera and the monkeypox. So how best can we build a resilient healthcare infrastructure and system that can stand the test of time?
Order your priorities. Put your money where your health is, and not the way we're spending the health getting 15%. I don't agree with that figure, because I don't think it's realistic. But we can do more than we're doing. Nigeria is giving about 5% of its budget for health, of the annual budget. But if you look at that 5%, a large portion of it goes into recurrent expenditures, salaries for people, meetings, and all those kind of things. Reorder your priorities. Spend your money on the right things and on the things that we need to do. Create the enabling environment for your people to stay. My generation stayed because the environment was okay. I had something to do. Now the environment is topsy-turvy. And so when people say blame those who are going to diaspora, I said, why? The situation, what are they doing here? Wasting their talents. And they always say we should come back. If you don't improve the environment that dropped them away the first time, they're not going to come back. So I said, let's go back to basics. Improve those basic environment, the environment that make people to be able to want to stay and help their country. The way we get our budget. Again, I don't want to compare what they spend on the National Assembly and what we spend on health or the individual or on education, all those things. Those are the areas. And I started by saying, reorder your priorities. And you reorder your priorities to put your. We can't continue to depend on foreign aid for all those type of things. Look at our budget. I keep saying it. Less than 5% goes to health. About the same amount goes to education. And yet our legislators spend much more than that. And when you look at it per capita basis, for 260 million people, you put a budget of how many trillions? For the National Assembly, for who are just on less than 1,000 of them, you put this amount of money. This is what I'm saying. Let us reorder our priorities so that we will not be dependent on other people forever.
I hear you there, Professor Sowore. Professor, please, this had us shaking in our boots, even if it was reversed, and I mean the freeze. Now, it gives you an idea of how big a funding we're getting from the U.S. especially. So the question now is, if the freeze was to be reinstated, what realities are we going to be faced with when it comes to our health care or those who need these fundings to be able to live?
I pray it's not reinstated, so we don't go back to the foolishness that we were doing before. There's a time for us now. I don't like Trump for some other things, but on this one, I think it's a good thing you should do. Many African countries should wake up and just take care of your problem. May he never rescind what they've done. Well, some people will suffer, no doubt about that. But we need to wake up and spend our money where it is. Well, we depend. I think in 2024, I can't remember, the US, through their PEPFAR and other things, they spent about $600,000, which is almost about $1 billion. And you can take that, not just America alone. Go to Japan, go to Germany, go to UK. They are putting money into all those places where we should be putting our money. But we're so dependent on them. I mean, I don't understand. It's not that they call us resource limited. They are not resource limited. We are resource wasteful. We are resource country. And that's what is happening to us. If this don't get this wake-up call, we will not know exactly what our problem is, and we will not find a solution to it. Until we begin to assume that we're resource limited and therefore we are handicapped and talking about equity, we are first wasting our resources, we are squandering our resources, and that's what is happening to us. So please, I hope Trump doesn't get this thing back. Let him keep his money. Let Africa wake up. Let Nigeria wake up. Spend his own money for his own people. That's what we need to do.
Right, well, in the realm of infectious diseases, right, we also have to look at infectious disease and put it into, which is, it's a threat to the human race and humanity. And we still, our public health system, especially our response to infectious diseases, is still very much on an all-time low. Don't we need the money? If you say that this freeze should still go on, what then happens to our immediate, which is very critical, the immediate response to infectious diseases? What happens then?
Let me tell you one thing. We assume we don't have the talent and resources to take care of infectious diseases. The money we are experienced. Nigeria took over, conquered Ebola in 2014, and all the cases came in, and through basic disease surveillance, handing over, decentralizing disease surveillance to the state level, to the local government level, getting to those basic things about contact tracing and those things, we conquered Ebola. There are 4 or 5 other countries in Africa that have done similar things, and we never hear about those epidemics. It is when we neglect those basic things that we have the epidemic that spread. So if you spend your money to prevent the epidemic in the first place, then you won't need anybody's support, because you will need the epidemic in the bud, and you won't spread to become an international concern. So our strength is in surveillance. It doesn't cost that much to put money into surveillance. In the days when we were growing up, states, local government level took care of their surveillance. Federal was just coordinating. Today, what we have a National Center for Disease Control and Prevention. But check them, they never even talk about the prevention. All we hear is National Center for Disease Control. If we focus on prevention, we probably will have little to do to control. We will have the resources to control what we have. So the point is, let's go around and say, yeah, it is a thing of the world. But it's your problem. It starts with your problem first. It starts with you having your people. People are the ones that why are you waiting for global to come and help you?
Professor, I hear what you say about disease.
It's your people that are dying, and you have the resources to take care of those ones.
Okay.
Creating that enabling environment for your epidemiologists.
Professor Sowore, we're having a bit of an issue with the connection, but I'm hoping that you can hear me now while that is reestablishing. Okay. While that is reestablishing, I hear you talk about this disease surveillance and how well we did. Yes. I hear you talk about how well we did when it was the instance of the Ebola virus. We also did pretty well when it comes to coronavirus. However, you also talk about the fact that we have to invest in our health system. We have talents, you see. However, we are still struggling with an educational system that's not feeding that health system, whether you like it or not. If we're going to refuse these fundings, where do we start from? And in how many years? What's the timeline before we start to get results from our own systems, whether it's the educational system or the health system? So aren't these fundings for the time being necessary while we try and regroup, taking from the gains of what we did when it was the Ebola virus instance and adding that to our system right now? Wouldn't that be a better alternative than to just simply not receive funding altogether?
Have to cooperate. But there's also the need for you to do your bit. You don't keep depending on those people. Check the National Center for Disease Control. 3/4 of the equipment there are all from foreign people. How much of Nigeria's money is in NCDC? Let's go a little higher. In the African Center, how much of Africa's money is in the African Center for Disease Control? Perhaps a little higher. How much of Africa's money is in the AU itself? Those are the things we need to address. Let's stop deceiving ourselves and assuming that, we have to keep depending on these people. And I keep saying we have the resources. We are misusing our resources. So that's why I said this will be something that maybe wake us up and get us out of this stupor of dependency and move on to do something with what we have. We are wasting our resources. An entourage of 20 vehicles will follow a governor from his toilet to his bedroom. The Department of Epidemiology has no bicycle to even go and investigate. These are the things we're talking about. Well, so let's get out of this thing about foreign assistance or what I mean. We have the resources to take care of ourselves. I was on a road one day when the governor passed. Over 20 cars passed me, and I was going to look at an epidemic. The people don't have a bicycle to even go and investigate. And you are talking about this thing. Those people who are giving you money, they have sense for what they're doing. The fact that they're giving you is part of their own, call it obligation, call it trying to feel good that, they are helping poor people like us. I'm not poor. My country is not poor. We are not poor. We're just being stupid and misspending our money. That message out to our people. Otherwise, we continue to remain where we are. And when Trump coughs in America, we start shaking here. Why should we? Are we not a nation?
Professor Sowore. Professor Sowore, I must
I'm still here.
Yes, sir. So we need to build. You have said this, numerous times, that there is a need for us to build, and we have the resources. It's one thing to have resources. It's one thing for a dire need for a rehaul or a revamp of our healthcare system. But there's also the will, the political will. And so I have to maybe ask you, what will be your call to action for our leaders, from the president down to the councillors?
We start with political will. But political will is a campaign thing. I will do this, I will do that. But they never fulfill it. What we need is political commitment, more and above the will. The will has failed us. It's a wish, and they've said it. Let them look at what is happening. Don't our president feel ashamed when Biden calls all of them to America to come and sit down, and they sit down like school children, listen to Biden talk. And when they send to go to AU meeting, they send their ministers. Where's the priority? We need to keep telling our leaders, tell them what they need to be told. We too, you in the press, me in the scene, we're too docile, we're too quiet. We let them get away with things they shouldn't get away with. And this message should go to them: wake up, Africa. Stop depending on Trump, on all those people on the aid on this thing. We will suffer initially in the implementation. That's what is expected. But we will then be resilient at the end. When we're spending our money well, when we're not depending on Trump to give us money for Trump to take care of our HIV cases. These are issues that you and I should be into. They get this message out. I'm kind of tired of all this nonsense that we're seeing with our leaders, where they just come and do what they like.
Professor, we must say thank you for taking out the time to join us today. It's been quite insightful, your discussion with us. And we can hear your passion from your voice there and your submission. And it's very clear that in spite of pouring aid, there is a need for developing nations, whether it's Nigeria or other nations who are under the foreign aid for the U.S. to pretty much just get up and act now before it's too late. And hopefully this would spur some change that we desperately need in our healthcare system. Professor Sowore, renowned virologist who joined us today, many thanks for doing this with us, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
We're going to a short break. When we come back, there is crisis in the PDP. We'll find out more after the break. Join us again. It is time. I'm joking. It's time for us to discuss politics. The internal turmoil within Nigeria's main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has escalated to alarming levels. A recent meeting of the party's Board of Trustees, BOT, descended into chaos due to disputes over the National Secretary position. Supporters of two claimants to the position clashed at the party's National Secretariat, leading to a chaotic scene.
Indeed, it was chaotic. This incident is the latest in a series of crises that have plagued the PDP, raising concerns about its internal cohesion and ability to present a united front ahead of upcoming elections. So, to delve deeper into these developments, we are trying to establish with Mr. Kola Ologbodiyan. He's the former National Publicity Secretary of the PDP. But here with us, we have Dr. Oke Ideneye. I hope I got that right. Yes, Dr. Oke Idawene, who is joining us to have this conversation. My apologies, sir. I see that you chuckled on my pronunciation there. My apologies profusely. So you're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Also joining us is Austin Azua, our correspondent who's been following the story and is live all the way from Asaba, Delta State. Austin, many thanks for joining us.
Okay, so we're going to be starting with you, Austin. First of all, Austin, if you give us a roundabout view of the entire situation when it comes to the BOT meeting that witnessed that unrest. Of course, we also had the report from earlier the week about the brawl at the Wadata Plaza. Now, what are we looking at currently? Austin, please.
Of course, the main opposition party, the PDP, has been embroidered with a series of crises after the 2023 general elections. And of course, we have some people who wanted to contest in other states after the 2023 general elections. And vis-a-vis, after the election, they didn't win the election. So obviously, they felt that they need to return back to their previous positions. Now, an attempt to resume office at the Wadada Plaza on Tuesday, was met with security resistance. And not only that, there were issues of confrontation that security agencies have to come in. Now, two days interval, the Governors Forum convened a meeting that was held here in Asaba, and issues regarding to some of the issues I mentioned earlier on were discussed. And one of them is to ensure that unity is returned to the party. And not only that as well, they're equally promising that they will be firm and united to ensure they're able to take over power in 2027. And they equally look at the issues of the economy. And of course, they call on the President Ahmed Tinubu, to review and reduce some of the microeconomic policies that has been initiated. So vis-a-vis that, the governors are now saying that they are willing and committed to support the unity of the party, but what they are asking is that so that there will be a more friendly environment for them to operate effectively. And of course, you know quite well that since the issues have started, some other people have not been very firm in terms of this decision making. But this time around, they seem to be united in that particular action to ensure that they are able to promote peace and unity in the party. Of course, don't forget too that the governors at the moment, they are the one holding the party, because if they are not elected, it means that the party cannot be too effective. So that is what's really played out at the Asaba declaration of the PDP Governors Forum meeting held yesterday, as of Friday.
Many thanks there, Austin, for that. We'll now be informed that we're joined by the former National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Mr. Kola Ologbodiyan. Mr. Kola, many thanks for doing this with us. We appreciate you for joining us. The meeting's been had, but also there's a recent news that just dropped following the resignation or the exit of Senator Ned Nwoko for Delta. He's now left the party, meaning that there is no representation for the PDP at the assembly for Delta State, and that was one of the founding member of the PDP. The PDP seems to be having a lot of issues at this time, and it begs to ask a bigger question: are they prepared for 2027? Is the PDP strong enough to contend? I'll start with you, Mr.
Dr. Okay?
Dr. Okay, there we go. Forgive me.
Okay, thank you very much. As regards whether the PDP is strong enough to run for election, I believe that the peace process that has been initiated by the governors can lead us to a situation in which we can have, in which we can ably contest in the 2027 election. However, you must not also miss the point that there are discussions within the political class on how to work on the coalitions that will be proper enough to challenge the All Progressives Congress.
All right. Doctor, you have the floor. Senator Nedwoke is one of is a key figure for Delta State when it comes to the PDP. A founding member since 1999. He has exited the party, citing, you know, the internal conflicts in the party as reasons for leaving. What is the future like for PDP, especially at the state level for Delta State?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, Senator Nedwoke is not a founding member of the PDP. He went to the House of Reps, he later joined the PDP after some years. He's not a member of one of the PDP. Secondly, he's leaving the
We seem to have lost Dr. Oke there. We're hoping that we can reestablish with him. There he is.
Seems we're having issues.
Now, coming to Delta North itself, Senator Nedwoke won the election under the minority of the PDP. He doesn't have the structure of his own. He rode under the structure of the PDP with support, much support from the then governor of Delta State, Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa. As we speak, I am an Isoko man from South. Even if I go on election in Delta North, I will get it out of head on with Senator Nedwoke because he's not an organized party man. He doesn't follow party structures. He doesn't care about people's feelings around him. So this end, Senator Nedwoke is not an issue with Delta PDP. PDP is stronger and better in Delta North. You can find out, you can go on the street and make your interviews. I'm telling you that the 9 local government of Delta State, Delta North in Delta State, we are more united than before. Asaba is a God. All the local governments are God. That look, we're going to get a better candidate to run for PDP Delta North Central District. Let me come to say again that you made a comment that we don't have senators anymore in Delta PDP. The 3 senators you have in APC, I make bold to tell you, they will not return in 2027. PDP will win this Central District in a landslide victory because the errors we discovered have been corrected in a haste, and we shall get it better in Delta State. The more agenda of the governor is a case study. Who won the government award recently under the Arise and these awards. So Delta is PDP and PDP is Delta State. We are doing filtration now to see where the other PDP who are practicing political sabotage against the party. We are not having PDP citizens as PDP leaders, PDP members in Delta State. Watch out for Delta State PDP. We shall lead by example. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Akola Olobodiyan, let me ask you, right? We have seen the spread of APC's tentacles, and a very clear example was from the last election for Edo State. Dr. Oke here just said that the PDP is still very much strong, even though there are no more senators representing them at the senatorial level for Delta State, and they are now all APC. They're still going to win another election cycle. But from the last 2 state of election cycles for Edo and Ondo, we have seen a shift from PDP to APC. And I'm going to still ask you again, from the grassroots level, is the PDP still holding a strong holds? Do they still have a hold on those strongholds? For example, Cross River State used to be a PDP state. Edo State used to be a PDP state. Delta is a PDP state. But we're seeing this very strong figures who can garner the grassroots support exiting the party.
Well, in terms of spread and in terms of membership, and I mean real membership, not convoluted membership, you could agree with me that there is no party in the political firmament of this country that has the spread and the membership of the Democratic Party. I think what the PDP needs to do is to reconfigure its strategy or its electoral strategy in a manner that the APC can no longer use the brutality of rigging or the use of money to win elections. So I think that's where the issue is. It is not about whether they have majority of membership. And if you look at the example you brought out, you mentioned Edo, where they are in the tribunal, and I would not want to say what the subject is. But notwithstanding, Nigerians saw the situation of what happened on the election day in Edo State. So, in terms of politics, and in terms of party system and democracy, it's about free entry and free exit. And we also know that we are already going to midterm of the current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I said on the platform yesterday that implosion looms in virtually every of the political parties because people are going to move, the cross movement. Some people will live here for that place, some people will leave that place too. Until we have the 2027 election, we must respect the situation that is currently happening, irrespective of movement of political actors. But having said that, I know that what is required in our party, the People's Democratic Party, is the ability to hold firm. And apart from holding firm, is also the ability to be able to work internally and resolve all issues that are bringing divisions into the party.
Well, Mr. Kola, Dr. Okay, I want to say thank you very much, but I have a question for both of you, but only after I ask this of Austin Azu. Now, Austin, at the forum, was anything said about the status of the National Secretary at all? Austin, I'm hoping you're still there. I had asked if anything was said about the status of the National Secretary and the matter that is in court. I don't know.
Yes, of course, the matter was extensively discussed by the Governors Forum, and what they talked about include one, that they propose to convoke a NEC meeting by March 18th, where the issues resolving the crisis at the National Secretariat will be resolved. And as well, they're equally proposing that very soon that Congress should be held so that they will be able to, settle most of those other disputes within the party from the national level. Don't forget that they have held their various state congresses and even world congresses. So the only one left out now is the National Congress, where these issues regarding the leadership will be put to rest. However, the Governors Forums are very determined to ensure they are able to resolve the crisis going forward so that they will be more stronger ahead of the elections in 2027. And of course, they will be more committed to ensure that they are able to meet the people at the grassroots and appeal to those aggrieved members. Of course, don't forget to that since 2023, some party members are already be aggrieved because perhaps due to the outcome of the elections, or probably before the election, or however after the election. So these are the issues that we extensively looked at the end during the PDP Governors Forums meeting, where at the end of the meeting, a seven-point communique was issued that was read by the chairman of the Governors Forum, that's Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed.
Dr. Okenna, with everything that's happening, the matters in court regarding the leadership of the PDP, the infighting, the physical fisticuffs that we saw over the week, one has to wonder what exactly the perception they're putting out to maybe their party faithfuls or even the members or lower members of the party. What perception do you think the PDP is putting out to the people that it's supposed to be leading if this is the state of the House? Dr. Oke.
Okay. Yeah, the court's judgments in an appeal court in Enugu is what the Forum of Governors have vowed to make sure it is implemented, because we are a law-abiding party. As Nigerians, the PDP is a law-abiding party. So we are insisting, they insist that the judgment must be implemented. The judgment that sacked Anyanwu to reinstate, to affirm that Ude Okoye is our national secretary. And that's the brain of the party right now. Like I told you before, it's a filtration process. In the process of the 2023 general elections, a lot of sabotage were discovered. And what they're doing, what they're doing now, and what leaders are doing, the PDP governors are the they are the leaders of the party in their respective state and national right now. So they are taking the lead, and we are supporting them to go ahead that come March 18, by the grace of God, before then or by then, national secretary issue will put to rest. What we are having now is that Nigeria is in comatose economically, and this is what is spurring us, giving us the impetus and the drive to ensure that the PDP come back stronger and more forceful, diplomatically, democratically, to ensure that Nigeria is taken back to where it's supposed to be. The hunger in the land is a driving force to ensure policies are well taken and driven to take us to greater heights. Also, they also talked about the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should give us better policies to ensure they reduce the suffering of the masses. These and these, the PDP remains the most organized party. What you're seeing is a process to bring us back to stream, and we shall get it right.
Okay, then.
Trouble not yourself over what you hear on social media and the news.
Okay, now.
Because all the Judas among us have been figured out to ensure that we have a party that when we come to the post 2027, it will be all over PDP by the grace of God.
Thank you.
Trouble not yourself. We have leaders. This government can do well. And I appeal to all the development and economic development in the state to ensure that we can always preach the PDP to the masses, like as is happening in the other states.
Thank you so much, Dr. Oke, for that. And finally, I'm going to ask you, Mr. Kola Alagbodinyo, with the exit of Ned Nwoko, was saying that he has lost trust in the system, lost trust in the leadership of the party and the internal conflicts. What does this say to the electorate?
Well, Senator Ned Nwoko will have his reasons for leaving the party. But what is important to me is that no one solves the problem by running away from it. Because even the APC that Senator Ned Nwoko is going to, I want to assure him that there's a likelihood that he will meet a bigger challenge, much more than when he left. Because, like I said earlier on, there's an implosion that is waiting to happen in all progressives Congress. For instance, from my own knowledge of the politics of Delta State, already Senator Agege is in the APC. Senator Nwoboshi is in the APC. The Minister of Aviation is in the APC. So going to join in this melee is a challenge. It will be a challenge for him. So my advice to party members is that what we need to do is to put this house in order. When we put this house in order, we should go out of the house and look within the firmament and see those who are interested in also joining in this the People's Democratic Party in order to rebuild this country economically and particularly security-wise. I think our drive should be about good governance. So I cannot speak for Senator Ned Nwoko, but I also know, like I said earlier on, that the challenge that he's going to meet in the All Progressives Congress might end up being bigger than what he has left in the People's Democratic Party.
All right. I mean, it still hasn't kind of, the question of of the trust that he says he lacks in the leadership and the internal conflict, and the message it passes on to the electorate and the people of Nigeria is one conversation that's going to be had pretty much for another time. But gentlemen, I must say thank you. Thank you, Austin Azu, our correspondent live from Asaba at Delta State, Dr. Oke, who's joining us also from Delta State as well, and also to Mr. Kola Olobodinyo, who's the former National Publicity Secretary for the PDP. And that's all we can take for this session. Gentlemen, thank you. It's good night. Oh, sorry, goodbye.